Now, India is already the world's fastest growing big economy, yes, faster than China, and now it's reforming to turbocharge that growth even more. Parliament's voted to sweep away its complicated multi-layered tax system and replace it with a unified goods and services tax, so long as the state governments agree, of course. Well, this is a huge step for India, as Iolo Dafydd explains.
India's economy, like its population, keeps growing. The country's value in terms of what it produces increased 7.6% in the last financial year. Wednesday's vote to introduce one service and goods tax throughout India has cross-party support and is seen as one of the biggest reforms since 2014 in Narendra Modi's time as Prime Minister.
Except one political party, everybody else has supported this bill. Everybody has voted in favor of the bill. And almost every state government is on board in order to implement one of the most important taxation reforms in India itself.
If ratified, India's unified goods and service tax would replace a patchwork of federal and state tax on goods. Currently, 1.3 billion consumers across India are charged with 17 different state and federal levies on moving goods. A new tax rate could be fixed across the country, but that won't be announced for a few months yet. Nor how much compensation for loss of revenue could be paid to India's western states in the future. But Wednesday's significant vote in the upper house shows there's strong support for the plan, especially if it'll boost the economy.
We will see one of the greatest tax reforms in the country, and it simplifies the tax structure. Instead of multi-phase tax, it will be a one single point tax. It will be a single rate that we will probably move towards over a period of time. So it's an entire taxation architecture which makes it simple, but very importantly it also makes India into one market, a unified one market.
India has an increasingly diverse economy, but despite the political agreement, there could still be several pitfalls to create a more integrated economy.
The pitfalls in the beginning would be more of political. This has to go through another 3 to 4 layers of approvals, including, the federal states have to approve. So the major pitfall would be, a lot of obstacles, which again, the implementation would face in the next 2 years.
A lot of details still need to be agreed, like the structure of the tax rate and which goods will be exempt. Iolo Dafydd, TRT World.
Well, Sunil Kanoria is the president of the Associated Chambers of Commerce and Industry of India. He joins me now from Calcutta. Sunil, thank you very much for joining us on Money Talk. Just bring this down to really basic terms here. How will ordinary Indians benefit from these reforms?
I think basically what would happen through the simplification and unification of the tax, the cascading impact of tax which was there, the multiplicity of taxes which was there in the country, the federal and the state levels, all that will get rationalized, and therefore it would have an impact on the final pricing to the consumer. Yes, there would be certain products where the cost will go up, the goods and services in certain areas would go up, the cost may go up marginally, but there will be many where it will come down. So therefore it will get rationalized, the simplicity would happen, and across the value chain, right from the producer to the consumer, there will be much more simplification and a lot more people will come into the tax regime.
So the ordinary consumer will see more products coming down in price than going up in price. Is that right, in a word?
I agree with you.
Okay. Now, it's supposed to boost the economy. How is it going to do that?
I think what would happen is there is a lot of goods and services which doesn't even come into the tax net today. Because of the GST, with the rationalization and simplification of the tax, what would happen is the transactions would come into the regime. So you would have a lot more overall people paying the taxes. The revenue, the government would go up per se. The leakage which is happening in the system will get reduced. A lot more money and resources would be available for the development of the country also.
Okay, so the government is going to be collecting more tax revenue as a result of this overhaul. Just as an aside, is it true that roughly 1% of Indians pay income tax?
That's right.
Well, that is a stunning figure. but this will presumably improve that.
Absolutely. It will improve substantially, especially with the technology, with the e-commerce coming and all. People would find it much more easier and accessible.
Okay, Sunil, let me ask you, if this is going to be everyone is a winner situation, why did it take so long to bring it into effect, or very nearly to bring it into effect?
You see, there was an issue when historically the state and the federal, there's a fight always between the state and the center. State does not want to let go its authority of being able to decide its tax rate, decides its whom and how they want to collect the taxes. Secondly, because different states in the country have a different economic environment, say for example in the western parts of the country, the manufacturing is much more, so they have a much higher tax collection, whereas in the eastern part of India, it is more of consumers. You have population, but not that much of manufacturing. Right. So in the past, the equality was not there where people were residing. And because GST is a consumption tax, it will be dependent upon where people are there and how much people consume, based on which the revenues for those states will get emerged. And therefore, there were certain states, they would lose some revenue in the shorter term. So these were one factor. And secondly, of course, was a political factor whereby when Congress was in power, BJP did not want the Congress to take an upper hand. And now when BJP was in power, Congress didn't want to get them to take a shot. And therefore, there were political
Sunil,
issues.
You mentioned some of the states are going to lose out. This is a final question to you. I just want to make this final point. So some states will lose out. The final hurdle for these reforms is going to be to get through at least half of those states agreeing with it. Will this set of reforms pass, do you think?
I think there could be a little challenge and delay, but I think ultimately because all the parties are represented in the central level also and they have agreed to it, and especially it is either a state is run by a Congress or a BJP or a regional party, and all have voted for it. So I don't expect that kind of a challenge. It may take a little more time, but it would happen.
So we could see it coming into effect by April, yes or no?
We are hopeful. We will keep our fingers crossed because we're already in August.
Okay.
A lot of work done, but let's hope that.
Sunil Kanoria, thank you very much for joining us on Money Talks. Hope to see you again soon. Thank you.